Hi guys, it's NJ here. Usually you see me on my other channel, the KSK Makeup, talking about makeup. This time I don't really want to talk about makeup. I mean, I love makeup, I love doing makeup. I like, looking good for when I go to work or when I go out every day. I think every woman and every man, if they care to, love to wear makeup and just to look nice for themselves, not for others, for themselves. It gives them a bit of a jump in the right direction. But today I want to talk about my journey of several years really. I have recently been diagnosed with endometriosis and adenomyosis, which is the evil sister of endometriosis. But before I go into that side of my medical condition, I want to tell you about my journey because I'm sure there's other women out there who will have suffered like myself and are suffering still and just don't know what is wrong with them. So, a bit about myself, as you all know. I mean, for those who know me through KSK, I have a young family. So I'm married. I've got 2 children, and I'm a working mom. You know, so I feel for all those working moms or moms, especially moms and dads. Single parents. It must be harder. I'm lucky. I've got a partner, but we do it for the love of our children anyway. So I do have 2 beautiful children, and I've got a very supporting family, parents as well. So I've always got a good network around me. So I had 2 cesarean sections in the past. First with my son in 2009, which went fine and recovered from it fine, and there was no issues. Then it was 2015 is when I had my little girl, my second cesarean. Now, whilst I had the second cesarean, there was a lot of complications in theatre. So I had a bit of a trainee anaesthetist. So when they're putting in the cannula in, this is my journey and I want to share it. And I'd like to share it. Somebody else might feel the same. So cannula goes in, trainee anaesthetist. This time I felt this cold feeling on my hand. And I could hear them saying that it's not gone in right, the blood's shooting upwards. And I thought, well, what they're on about? I don't think it's meant to happen like that. It's been fine. I've had a cesarean. It was fine the first time, but this time when I went in, there was a feeling that something's going to happen. And my mum had the same feeling because I could see it off her face. I went in 7:30 in the morning. So anyway, when the anaesthetist put this injection in, something must have happened. She didn't put it in correctly, and I felt this cold feeling. Like I said, that cold feeling was my blood. I said to my husband, I said, "Oh, is that my blood?" And he says, "Just don't look here." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And then I had a spinal to numb me from head down. So people have epidurals. I had a spinal. So this lady who was also doing the spinal injection kept going in and out. You have 3 different injections put in different areas of your spine. So that's what happened. So that was one part. I look at it. It's not funny. I'm laughing now, but I'm just like, it was the expression on my husband's face at the time was just like, okay, I'm not going to show it. I'm not scared. It's fine. Nothing's happening. We're having our little girl. It's fine. Not that his face was saying other things to me. Not that the fact that what he was saying was just, you're just saying this. It's a bit lip service here. You're just saying it. Anyway, so baby came out fine, easy. So someone was supposed to be giving me blood pressure medicine and other medicines and monitoring my heart. So when they took the baby to the other side to get the dad to cut the cord, because it's a special thing, special day for the father as well as the mother. So I'm still laying there, getting stitched up as they do. Because everyone's looking at the baby because she's got dimples. They're like, oh, she's so cute. She's so adorable. I'm there. I could feel I couldn't breathe. and my heart was sort of going really down. The pressure, my blood pressure had risen, and it was causing difficulties in my breathing. So I think at one point my husband seriously thought he lost me. He happened to turn around, ran towards me and says she needs help. And then at this point, this is when they started administrating oxygen and then more medicine. So I had loads of medicines, and all that issue was sorted. I started to come round a bit more, and then I had my medicines, stitched me up, and then they moved me to recovery room. Now, at that point, I mean, we rang my mum. She had been praying on Hindu, so mum obviously had that worry. It's a mum thing, I think. It's a parent thing when they know that something's going to happen to the child. She was praying until my husband rang her. She didn't stop praying. She was happy that I'd come out of theatre. I was fine. The baby was, and the baby, the other thing I forgot to say, so she was so naughty when she was in my tummy. But she's naughty still now. But she wrapped the cord around her neck. So she was turning purple. So it was my decision to have an early cesarean. I opted for an early cesarean only by, I think it was about 3 days. So I had her 39 weeks in 2 days as opposed to 40 weeks. So the baby came out. She was purple. She'd wrapped the cord around herself. So they managed to sort her out. We're both fine, happy. So as anybody who's been for a cesarean knows, that recovery time can take a while. It can take up to 6 months for your cesarean scarring to heal properly. Because if you think about it, it's all those tissues that the surgeon has to go through to take the baby out. Taken out, it's fine. It's just stitching out every layer and just making sure that you have dissolvable stitches within, and I had dissolvable stitches on the exterior as well. So I was always in pain after I had my little girl. And that 6 months lasted, and thought, okay, is it still the pain from cesarean? And then I was like about a year in, I thought, no, this cesarean pain should have gone by now. My cesarean scarring still to this day can go pink at times, pink and sticky, and it's not very nice. And I don't feel happy about myself. And I think women who go through cesarean sections, it is hard. And it's hard for any woman, any maid, depending on, how we feel within ourselves. I think we can be very insecure. So sometimes you just think, my body's not right, my face isn't right, I don't look nice, things, your hair can be out of place, like me, I keep putting it back, and you feel insecure. So I have had to, for the past nearly 8 years, gone through this insecurity about the way I look, my body, my tummy has not settled, even though I'm doing my exercise in the morning, I'm doing my sit-ups, I'm doing my any exercise, you name it, I'm doing it. And I've got to the stage where I'm only eating sometimes breakfast, I'll miss lunch, and then I'll have something at evening, a big meal in the evening, which is it's my choice, and I feel fine because I will snack throughout the day, small snacks, fine. I'll have a yogurt in the morning, yogurt with cardamom and honey. It's really good for you. It's very refreshing, and I'd recommend it. But anyway, I used to look at my body and I think the pain, this scarring hasn't healed. There was always a smell to the scarring. It is, for me, it was gross. So obviously you shower every day anyway. But the pain got to that stage where I'm creased over. I'm on my paws, hand and feet in agony. I could be stood up, and then I'll get this sharp punch in my tummy that brings me down. It just drags me down. So my husband said, look, let's get you to the doctors. My mum she was very scared. She's very protective of all of us. There's me and my brother and my sister. She's very protective. So she was like, get yourself seen. So I thought, right, I need to get seen. This is just getting ridiculous. It's a year and my scarring hasn't healed correctly. I'm still in this pain. So went to the doctors and I got greeted with, I believed he was a newish doctor, but my husband said, no, he's been there a while. So anyway, he's looking at me, did the examinations, and I could feel these little lumps. I've always felt little lumps by my cesarean scar. And above on my abdominal, there's like these little nodulars that I can feel, and they move. But he could see that it was tender, but he's like, what do you think's wrong with you? What have you Googled? And I thought to myself, sorry, I'm here because I'm in pain. You're my GP. You should tell me what's wrong with me. If I was a GP, I'd diagnose myself. But unfortunately, I'm not. And yeah, you do have a look in Google. But I will say, you look at it just to have a brief look at what it may be, but you don't take it down as gospel. It's not never gospel. It's something that you just look at because you are in pain, you need help. And so at the time, I went to my GP. This was 2017. No, 2016 is when I went first. So then he referred me to some specialists. They were bowel specialists. So I went to a hospital, saw a bowel specialist, and they called me to a different centre that they've got, and there was two specialists there. So they both saw me and said, okay, well, let's run some tests just to see what's in there. So one of them was an endoscopy, and then I've had a test where they put a tube up your back passage, and it has a camera, and they have a look, and they blow air into you. Always discomforting, but I would recommend, if you're in that pain, get these scans sorted. So the endoscopy, they did a camera, and when they did the other one, they went back for my results, and they said, look, we found some small hernias, which are like baby hernias. So you might have had them from when you were born, not cause you any problems. We have people who get them and have got problems down the line. And mine, she said they were fine. And I was like, well, so I was still getting pain. So we were going to do some more tests, really, because I couldn't really answer apart from these small hernias. And then they said, okay, we'll do you an MRI scan and a CT scan. This is at one hospital, specialist apparently hospital. So I went there, 2 scans, CT and an MRI, where they put some contrast fluid into you and then have a look. And then the MRI where you're in that tube that makes us sound, and they ask you to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. CT scan, I've had all of them basically. So went back and they said, look, we've just found these, you've got polyps is what they described them as, and it's normal to have. And they said, if you're still not happy, the other scan that we can do is a laparoscopy. I thought, well, what's a laparoscopy? Laparoscopy is where they create 3 slits in your abdominal. So this is your abdominal, and they will create one just above your belly button, then to the side, and one just on your belly button is what I had. And then in those slots, they will put a camera in just to see. And if they find something called, with people who have cesareans, they tend to suffer from adhesions, where it's like an elastic that gets wrapped around your insides basically, and they just snip them away and remove them. So when I had that, they did, and she says, it's a good call with the surgeon when they did it. They says, it's a good call. She says, we found some adhesions and we've removed them whilst we've been in there, so it's successful, it's fine. So I thought, okay, that'll get rid of my pain. Had a review I think it was a few months later, and I said, no, the pain's still there. I'm still in really bad pain. So she said, I think what we'll do is refer you to pain clinic. Went to pain clinic. They gave me a cortisone and steroid injection to help with the pain. Now, this doctor said, look, this will help you. And he was a really nice guy, and he tried, had the cortisone injection. It's meant to last up to about 3 months. It lasted about 2, if less than 2 months for me. And the pain started again. So I said, look, the pains started. So then I got referred to another specialist, a gynecologist. So you can imagine my journey so far is just being ping-ponged between different specialists. And so I was in a surgical team, then I went to pain clinic, then I've gone to gynecologist. Gynecologist is a gynecologist that I met many years ago when I was pregnant with my son, and I didn't like him because he was very arrogant, very rude, and the saying was he would only see a patient once, and that's it. So, okay, so I thought, all right, I braced myself. I knew who it was. Went there, and when he said, oh, how are you, and explained, and I said, oh, I do remember you. I mentioned that I remembered him. And he says, I hope it was all good. Never said anything. I thought, be quiet. There's no point to say anything now. So anyway, he says, have you had an ultrasound? I said, no. That's one test I haven't had. And I know it doesn't hurt because ultrasounds is something you as a pregnant woman you regularly have when you, especially myself, because I was under consultant care. So had the ultrasound, and radiologist who was there doing the ultrasound found something, and he said to me and my husband at the time that he thinks it might be a hernia. But then he passed it back, the results, to the doctor, because obviously the doctor needs to review him. And he says, yep, we've got it. It's a hernia. You've got a hernia. That's causing you problems. And I'm surprised the surgical team didn't see it. He was a bit smug. And he says, I'm going to refer you back to the surgical team and tell them that you got a hernia. So then I got referred to a surgeon. At the start, I thought it was really nice. I thought, he's a fellow Brummie, because I'm from the Midlands and he's, originally from the Midlands. So I was like, we got on, we spoke, and, it was good. Built up a bit of a rapport. And then he says, okay, we're going to do another laparoscopy for you just to see. This is what the doctor's saying, but I don't believe it's a hernia. So I say, okay, one surgeon, one specialist is saying hernia, other specialist saying, no, I don't think it is. It might be that the fact we're never going to know. And it's a grey area, this pain that you got, and you just got to live with it. And at this stage, I thought, okay, fine. Didn't read about endometriosis or anything. He did another laparoscopy, removed some more adhesions, and went back for my review. And this was after quite a long time. And he says, look, we found adhesions, we've got rid. I don't know what the problem is now. He said, what do you think that, And then we mentioned endometriosis because we'd heard about it. And my mum, bless her, she told me when she was young, she had to have an hysterectomy at the age of 23, 23, 24, I think it was. So she'd obviously left us with her dad. And because she was so young to have it here in UK, she went to a private clinic in India and got that, and she had appendicitis at the same time. So she had a major operation, recovered, and she's, touch wood, she's fine. But she said her mum suffered something similar where it's to do with the womb. And she kept mentioning it got hard and there were problems and tissues. Your internals just aren't working anymore and causing more pain. So I thought, okay. And then we discovered my friend had something similar. She had endometriosis. So I mentioned it. I didn't know much about it apart from what my mum had said and what I'd read and what my friend said. So he says, in my 30 years of experience, I've only seen 2 cases of endometriosis, and that's not what you've got. I'm sorry, it's just a grey area. There's nothing more we can do for you, unless you go to a different specialist, not in our area or district, but elsewhere. So I was very annoyed, very upset, because I'm somebody who's been suffering for several years now. Now at that stage, it must have been before COVID. So 2019, I think it was, yeah. No, started 2019, because then they referred me to pain clinic again just to help me with the pain. I was upset, bit of a bad review I wrote about him. But, in all fairness, as a medically trained specialist, that's one thing, but you're a human on the other side, so you've got to be caring. The way he spoke to me, the way he addressed my illness, I just felt like, okay, he's just saying grey area, deal with it. I can't do anything else. Wash my hands of you, pass you on to somebody else. So now I've gone back to pain clinic, where I've met another specialist in the same hospital, saw another specialist, and then he said, have you tried chili cream? This was at the end of 2019, before COVID. I said, chili cream? No, I've never heard of it. And he says, put that on your cesarean scarring, it'll help you with the pain. I got this cream. Because my scarring is still a bit wet and, I put it on. It stings. There's a bit of heat going to it, like you would on deep heat, but nothing else. It didn't really help me with my pain. My pain was still there. I'm still cramping. I'm still throwing myself on the floor in pain. So I was just like, besides myself, what do I do? This guy has not contacted me during COVID. Didn't get any contact from him at all. And then it was a lot of visits to my own GP, getting a lot of antibiotics because I was getting infections in my urine, you could see. And I could always see I've always had dark, very dark urine. So if you see any of that, please go see your GP. I even got myself those them dipsticks with the alkaline paper telling you so, because I had a lot of leukocytes and it was very high number, pH as well. So I've always shown a lot of high number of those. So that says to you there's something wrong. So it came to about 22. Last year, 22. I spoke to a newish GP. So after having several antibiotics, still going on some antibiotics, and this must have been in summer, after summer. So she's referred me. She referred me to a gynecologist. I'm going to refer you to a gynecologist. Let's see what they say, because you're right. In 1 month, I've had 2 sets of antibiotics, and she says they can keep giving me the antibiotics, but it gets to a stage where they're not going to work. I'm still getting the pain. And she saw the letters from the gynecologist pain clinic, because pain clinic just told me that if it's not working, we'll refer you back. And that's what happened in about 2021. They referred me back to GP. So I was bouncing between GP and hospital specialist, whether they're taking me on, GP's taking me on, or they're going to refer me somewhere else, because they did mention she needs to be referred to a gynecologist. So my GP had said, you refer her. They've gone back saying, you refer her. So she was a new GP, and bless her, she was brilliant, because she did all the tests again and checked, how I was. And she could feel the nodulars and she could feel the tenderness. And she's like, right, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to get gynecologists. I've read the letters. I just think it's silly bouncing it back and forth. I'm going to take charge of this. And she did. She took ownership. And as somebody who works in a industry where it is important to take ownership of your work, and she did. So hats off to this GP. She was brilliant. Referred me to gynecologists at my local area, the hospital. The hospital, I thought that at this time I refused to go because I've had bad press about it. And I thought, right, no, give it a try, because I've had good press as well. Never knock something. So I did. And I have been treated in the past at this hospital. And the surgeon I had for my wrists, he was great, so the other hospital was great when it came to carpal tunnel surgeries. But my local, which is just an NHS hospital, was great, and they were brilliant. Saw the gynecologist. It was a local gynecologist. He did some tests and he says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do an MRI. This MRI came several months after. So I had my carpal tunnel surgery and I was recovering from it. And then in November, I went for my MRI scan last year. So in this scan, it was a bit different. They gave me 2 different injections at 2 different intervals. They kept me in there longer. They took all sorts of pictures. I'm getting pain right now because I'm actually sat down. So this is what happens when I'm sat down for several minutes. It does hurt quite a bit. And I will tell you the other symptoms in a minute, but let me just tell you this bit. So what happened was a gynecologist, I went to this MRI scan, had two injections, and I was in there for longer. So then months went, February came, and February this year, and so I rang the hospital and says, I've not had my results back yet for my MRI scan that I had last year, end of last year. So she's spoke to the secretary of the gynecologist who was supposed to be in charge. She's like, okay, let me leave it with me. I'll come back. And she was brilliant, the secretary as well. These people have come to, in the end of trying to get diagnosed, these have been brilliant. So then secretary rings me back after a few days because they'd already sent me a letter to come into the hospital to say you need to come in for the 3rd of March, I think, something like that. She rings me and she says, it was on the 22nd of February. She rings, she says, look, consultant has said she needs to speak to you urgently. So she's going to ring you tomorrow. And I thought, when you think, why does she need to speak to me about my results? And then I thought, don't build my hopes up, because what I tend to do is get my hopes high that I'm going to get diagnosed with something. I'm going to know what's wrong with me, and then I'm going to come crashing down. So next day came, she rang me, my sister was with me, put it on speaker, and she's like, oh, how are you? So fine. She goes, I know you've been, I says, I just seem to be suffering more and more. So she said to me, right, we've had a look at your scan, and your scan is showing signs of advanced endometriosis. You've got endometriosis tissues, and what's happened is that the tissues have now. So what happens? Endometriosis is within the uterus. It's your endometriosis tissue that falls when you have your monthly cycles. It comes, and it tends to just go when you have your period, so it gets released with your period. But endometriosis has a habit of attaching its tissues. That tissue attaches to your insides, and that can cause people to stop people from having children as well. So, where you think that why you're not having a baby, it might be that you have endometriosis. And that's why I'd always recommend get seen by a specialist, a gynecologist. And then she says, well, what you have is endometriosis, but you have, along with it, adenomyosis. And I thought, well, what's adenomyosis? And it's known as the evil sister of endometriosis. Now, it's so one is within the uterus, and the other is when it's growing out of the uterus and affecting your muscles and organs. So just told me what's happened is my fallopian tube and my large intestine. So I suffer from something called a floppy bowel, which I've discovered while I had all these other scans. Syndrome, floppy bowel syndrome of the large bowel tube. So my large intestine is floppy. It's not attached to the wall like it should do. So what it's done is attached itself and the fallopian tube to my cesarean scarring, and that must have happened while I was healing with my second child. So that to me was like, okay, this is why I'm getting all these pains. And I said, seem to be getting worse as I've got older, and my periods have always been heavy. I always go for the 7 days cycle, but it's a lot of bleeding and a lot of cramping. Never in my teen years or as growing up until I had children, even my first child, never had cramps in my periods. It was after my second child in 2015. Every period cycle was painful. Even the build up the week before, my bloatingness has got worse. And that's why I'm more paranoid, because with endometriosis, you can get endo belly is what it's known as, which is a lot bloatiness. And so my belly is very bloated from there, and it will just stick out, and sometimes it feels like you're pregnant again. So I get paranoid that I wear a lot of hoodies because I don't want people saying to me that you're pregnant, because if I was, great, thank you. I'm not, so don't call me pregnant. I'm suffering from something that nobody knows about. It's not their fault, but it is hurtful for someone like me when I hear that. So anyway, she told me I had endometriosis and adenomyosis, and they, in their hospital, they can't, they don't specialize in it, because I would need two surgeons. I need an endometriosis surgeon and a bowel specialist to be in the same surgical room when they do surgery on me, because she says there's the option of having surgery, which is a hysterectomy. And then I told her about my mum. My mum had it as well, and it was endometriosis. And I've mentioned this before to all these other doctors, but nothing came out. And then she says, no, you've definitely got it. I can recommend a pill to help you with the pain. Now, I didn't know at the time this pill is one to stop your period. So it's like a contraceptive pill. Due to me suffering from migraines, I've never taken a contraceptive pill. But I've been told that this was special, and then thought, well, all it's going to do is stop something that's going to happen anyway for a few months. And then when it comes, it's going to hit me hard. So I opted not to have that pill. But I was grateful to this doctor. She referred me to another specialist centre, which is away from my town, but it's taken from February, my referral. Her secretary is so nice. She emailed it across, she's faxed it across, and she also sent the letter to myself and to the hospital. That took 7 weeks to just find the letter. And then it's taken several weeks to get my appointment. So it was for the 1st of June, but now it's been cancelled and I've got it for the 6th of June. That's only because I had a bit of a breakdown when they cancelled the first one, and I rang them. I rang the secretary there, and she's very nice as well. I've touched wood, I've been lucky with the latter part of my diagnosis. I've been blessed with good surgeons, good specialists, gynecologist specialists. So, touch wood, I hope the doctor I see is very good. So, she's got me an appointment for the 6th of June at 2:10. So, I want to continue my journey with you guys and tell you what is happening. So, I have, as I was recommended, to have a operation, which is a hysterectomy, removal of my womb and everything will just go. But that will get rid of all this pain that I've suffered for so long, touch wood. Hopefully it will, and I'll start to see movement. But what I didn't know is endometriosis is known as a disease, a chronic disease. So for me, I was going away earlier this year, so I wanted to get travel insurance. I needed to have special travel insurance. So it's a first for me. My husband's got private healthcare that wouldn't cover me because I've got a chronic illness, which I never knew about, and I only got diagnosed recently. And even though we said that, they said, no, we can't because you've been diagnosed with it. So we can't do anything with it. So, yep, it's a waiting game. And I understand that surgery can take a while. But my husband, touch wood, and my family, my parents, they're all supportive. If worse comes to worse, I might go in for an early surgery at our own cost. But what I wanted to share was the fact that you're not alone. People who are suffering with this pain, please get yourself seen. And if doctors keep passing you off, stay stuck on it. Be adamant. Push if you have to push. Just get an answer. That's all I got to say is you need to get an answer. Get diagnosed, no matter what it is in life. You know, if you stick to your guns, you can achieve it. Like I say to my daughter, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. It's just up to ourselves to do it. And because I stuck on it, I was adamant that there was something wrong with me. And I think we, as individuals, know our own bodies and know when we're ill. So I want anyone who's out there suffering with these sort of pains, and it's like a pull on your tummy, and then you can feel small nodulars within your abdominal area which keep moving. Mine was on my cesarean scarring, and I've always said that. And now I know, because it's my bowel tube and my fallopian stuck to it, that will cause me more problems. And this bloatiness, it's going to happen, but it's only temporary. It will go away. But I will continue my video once I have been to my appointment. Once I have my appointment, I'll give you an update. So it's ciao from me for now. Take care.